Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is the final project for third course within AI product management specialization. And this is about considering human factors in identifying and preventing banking fraud using machine learning. So we'll talk a bit about user experience and then privacy considerations, then some ethical considerations, and finally we'll talk about AI augmentation versus automation uh, as it related to this project. So let's begin. We'll first talk about user experience, and um, it's about starting with the actual problem, like we did in the last project. So we'll restate the problem, and the problem statement is, as mentioned here, financial institutions face significant challenges in identifying and preventing fraudulent transactions. They also waste significant time when they have to deal with false positives. So now that we have restated our problem, our next step would be we perform a small task analysis for who's the user and what is the job that they want to do. So user for us would be a bank teller, and their task or jobs to do is based on the transactions, identify pattern, and prevent fraudulent transactions. At the same time, do not stop uh, the transaction if it is a false positive. If we talk When we talk about design, design can be an interface which will create alerts that would alert the teller about such fraudulent transactions against their clients. And the job of the action they will take is to triage these alerts and decide if they are actually fraudulent or not. Some input and output considerations would be input for the users uh, uh, would be the transactions, but we need to inform the users that about the data that will be utilized by the model. It could be transaction, location, um, or date, amount, um, country. Yeah, and then output will be providing a probabilistic output. Say 60% chance that this transaction is fraudulent can be an example. Then we also want to provide transparency. What was the basis of the decision? As in, is it decided? It does the model decide that it is fraudulent because of location, because of the transaction amount? There could be multiple factors, but we need to be transparent about what is behind the decision making. We'll touch upon transparency a bit later, also in the ethical considerations slide. Then we'll provide an explicit feedback loop. So it would be, for an example, it would be teller labeling the transaction as fraudulent or not. And this will play a significant role in helping the model learn new patterns. Next is privacy considerations, and first would be privacy policy. So for any user, we have to provide a notice of privacy policies that are being followed while detecting fraud. If there would be PII information that we would collect, and the system needs to get consent from the user um, for collecting that information and storing that information. Then, about information and security, we should safeguard the PII information that we are collecting, and we have to ensure that the maintained information is accurate and complete. Um, Use and retention, we should use it only as long as necessary, and there should be a retention policy which is declared to the user, and that should be followed within the software. Around management of PII, there should be a clear accountability, and it should be well documented and published to the users. Since it's a financial product, financial privacy rules and laws will be applicable. We'll move on. The next slide would be for ethical considerations. Um, Ethical considerations would be, it should be fair. And the software should um, not discriminate any individuals or group based on their location, origin, or a demographic um, classification. Uh, then, as I said, accountability again is a part of accountability, and transparency is again part of ethical considerations, as well as UI, because um, we should publish values and laws the system is based on. And if the system misbehaves, what is the recourse that we can provide to the user? Users should know why and on what basis their transactions were marked as fraudulent, or not fraudulent. Um, then bias can be based on, there are three types of biases that we can consider. Here is the representation bias, which could be if the training data represent uh, the entire does not represent the entire population well. Then it could be learning bias during training, where if the human involved is is providing a feedback loop, and there would be limitations of that human involved, and so that limitations and biases can creep into the system. And then deployment bias would be that if you're training our fraud model in a particular environment, say a set of banks, and then the deployment happens at a bigger bank or vice versa. So there could be biases around deployment too. Um, Lastly, we will talk about AI augmentation versus automation. Now, when we say augmentation, it is an alternate use of AI for complementing humans rather than replacing them. So it is basically collaboration between human and computer, which is what this system should be built on. As in, the fraud model can highlight the fraudulent patterns, and then a human intervention can, or a human control can decide if it is actually fraudulent or not. So there would be some human control over the process, and if there are any routine tasks that are based on large there would be some routine tasks based on large data sets, and that can be replaced or fully automated to support the humans well. um, yeah, and that's the final part of this presentation. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate it. Thanks.